wrote a letter to his father's employer and asked that he pay him half of his father's salary instead. And his employer did it. I'm going to talk about who that is. And I'm going to talk about why I always say, keep rising. Welcome to Something I'm Learning, my end of day chill down show for creatives like myself who need a little help coming in for a landing on a daily basis and evening basis. I'm hoping that you taking this ride along with me may help you let your day go, and also, if we're fortunate, remind you how important your role as a working creative is in the world. Your job as a working creative is one of the most important on earth. You help people survive life. That is possibly the most legit job you can have, despite what some may try and lead you to believe, well-meaning they may be. That's something I'm learning. When I say keep rising, it's about three things. It's about multiple knockdowns, followed by standing back up. And I'll share the first of those three things by means of this famous person I'm talking about. Born to an abusive family situation with an alcoholic father. Went to work at age 13 and escaped his house to live with another family where he gave music lessons to one of the daughters in the house. At that young age, going forward, he continued to keep his family financially afloat. And at one point, he wrote his father's employer and asked that he pay him half the salary instead of his father, so that some of the money would actually make it back to the family and they could survive. Fast forward just a few years, and just when life is finally starting to look up, new life in a new city, new teacher named Hayden, that might give it away. New love interest, new lease on life. They said he was lionized by the wealthy and adored by the aristocracy at this point in his life. He starts to lose his hearing at age 28. Now you know who I'm talking about. He's a renowned composer. His entire life is music, sound, and composition, and he is starting to lose his hearing. How's that for a tough break? I bring him up because the question at this point would be, what do you do when you simply can't seem to buy a decent break in life? The home situation he was born to was certainly not his fault in the least. He's blessed with this ridiculously deep and rich gift at an extremely young age for music. And then his hearing, like of all body parts, of all the things that can go wrong with you, health-wise, Your ears? Come on. Like, you know, he had to be just staring in disbelief into the distance as he came to terms with the fact that he was losing his number one asset, the thing that provided the input to what made him special in the world. But as you might know by now, that was not the end of the story for Ludwig van Beethoven. So when I say keep rising is about multiple knockdowns followed by standing back up. It's the old Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Never giving up, never conceding, taking a punch, taking a hit, taking a failure, and getting back up. It doesn't matter how many times you fall or how many times something falls on you. The important thing is your response. Don't ask why. Why is this happening to me? Just get back up. Keep rising. Second thing keep rising is about is elevating one's craft. And I was reminded of that thinking about Beethoven lately. I ran into this article on a cool site that I've never seen or heard of before called what is it called? The Marginalian. Yeah. I'll make sure the link is available, but the writer's name is Maria Popova, I believe. And she talked about Beethoven's life, particularly as it pertained to the composition of the Ninth Symphony. And after really delving into this part of this great composer that I was unfamiliar with, it led me to check out this cool YouTube video. It's a movie that happened to be available on YouTube. I'm not sure whether it's officially sanctioned or whatever, but I'll make sure that link is available as well. It's called The Genius of Beethoven. And it went into just the hardship that this guy had to come back from to continue to create. And what happened next in his life after the hearing loss started to progress relates to the second thing I mean when I say keep rising. He's at this place where he was on top of the world and everything was in front of him. You know, he was cleared for takeoff. From an artistic standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, financially, everything. It was right there. And now all of a sudden he's presented with this huge obstacle that threatens to take all of that away. He's got this ringing in his ears. To this day, no one knows why. There's speculation that perhaps it was lead poisoning in the drink of the day, but no one knows for sure. He tried going to the countryside and spent some time there in the quiet. He tried every known crazy, wacky remedy that was available at the time, which, as you can imagine, many years ago, we're talking hundreds of years ago, was not very good. Certainly not effective. splitting headaches and the ringing in his ears continued. His friends at the time would later say that it was around that time that he became singularly focused in a way that they hadn't seen before. Like he had a new sense of urgency, determination, almost a mania to get his next works done because he felt like his time was running out. It's said that he began composing by laying his head directly atop the piano to hear the notes. And in his music around that time, you can almost hear how that would make sense because there was a very strong, almost percussive nature to much of his composition during that time. Very bold, very striking, probably a mixture between his urgency and his determination now that he was working under a limited timeline, but also just rage about the unfairness of the situation. That had to be, I can't imagine. Of course, at a point, he finally would lose all of his hearing. Like there was just no way to hear any notes. And then he pivoted to what he called a new way. He began to compose completely from inside with no outside feedback. And precisely when you would think that his work would start to slip, not be as interesting, not be as special, it was then that he began to compose some of his most remarkable works. Like his work just became more and more and more remarkable. It almost makes you wonder, if you're a songwriter or composer or producer of any kind, whether we're going about this the wrong way or whether we're missing out on some other level of musical brilliance by actually listening real time to the music that we're writing. You know, like it was when he stopped listening that he made some of his best work. Many argue the best work he ever did, and others would argue the best work anyone ever did. Certainly in the world of symphony. Arguably. But it just got better and better and better. In other words, through tragedy after inconvenient circumstance, after more unfair tragedy, the quality of his work keeps rising. It keeps rising. So that's the second thing I mean when I say keep rising. It's about pushing and elevating your craft to new heights with every new thing you release. Not necessarily every new thing you create. Because our progression kind of goes up in a zigzag fashion, but as long as it's trending upward over time, There's no need to put yourself under the pressure that every piece you do has to be measurably better than the one before it. That's insane. But on the trend, on the average, we should be pushing ourselves to greater and greater heights, higher and higher quality, never growing satisfied or complacent with what our current level of mastery is. We have to keep rising. Which brings me to the third thing I mean when I say keep rising. And it has to do with when things seem hopeless. The darker times, and Beethoven's darkest moments, when he questioned going on, maybe even waking up the next day. He wrote to his brothers, Carl and Johann, if I'm remembering correctly. Art alone deterred me. How could I possibly quit the world when there was so much more within me that was left to produce, or something thereof? I'm not remembering exactly, but that was his sentiment. He felt there was too much for him to do tomorrow, for him to miss tomorrow. So he went to sleep, and each morning he rose. And that's the third and final thing I mean when I say keep rising. The most important message of all. Keep rising is about always choosing to see what tomorrow holds for you, no matter how life seems today. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. No matter who you are, you will be knocked down many, many times. What determines who you truly are is your willingness to get back up. It's something I'm learning. next time we talk, I wish you the brilliance of Beethoven, or your version thereof. I wish you the resilience of Beethoven. I wish you his tenacity. I wish you the urgency of Beethoven. I wish you Beethoven's curiosity for your tomorrow. I wish you Beethoven's self-appreciation for your gifts. I wish you 100,000 more sunsets. I wish you heart flutters and stomach butterflies.